Guys, we're working with our friends at DraftKings, the official gaming partner of the UFC, to put you at the center of the action with a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Download DraftKings and enter the UFC 263 Daily Fantasy Contest with millions of dollars in total prizes up for grabs all week long. Here's how to play. Draft 6 fighters from Saturday's fights. Stay under the $50,000 salary cap and rack up fantasy points for advances, takedowns, knockdowns, and more. Full rules and scoring can be found at DraftKings.com/MMA. I'm picking Marvin Vettori in an upset. And you know what? If you're a new user, go to dkng.co/Sonnen. Again, that's dkng.co/Sonnen and use the promo code Sonnen when signing up to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Nick Diaz. The question that keeps on going around, the topic that just won't die. Dana came out and said, things are looking up. I believe Nick will fight this year. Hard stop, no more info. And that's right along the lines with everything we've ever gotten Nick Diaz related over the last 5 years. Something really loose that involves Nick name that gets everybody excited. But here's the question. Where do you go with Nick? What do you do? And you want to know the good news? There's no wrong answer. Anybody will take the Nick Diaz fight. No matter what. Whether they think they're going to beat him or they know it's a beating to them, just for the attention, they'll take that fight. Just for the placement on the card that Nick is going to demand, which is top billing, they will take that fight. Problem, or at least I should say the other side of it. I don't think it's a problem because Nick's been very honest. To quote Nick, I don't want to get in there with some of those, get in there and jump around with some of those young guys. Okay, great. I appreciate that because now Nick has told us there's some guys I'm not looking to fight at this point in my career. Awesome. He told the truth. So what it appears to me, where I'm sitting, I got no better seat to this thing than you do, guys. But it appears that all we need is for Nick to say who he does want to fight. Everything that I have observed is just Nick saying no and why. He'll turn someone down, Khamzat Chimaev, but then state why he turned him down, as opposed to coming in with a suggestion of how about this guy and why. And we don't even need the why. It's going to be a yes. I have to tell you though, right? I mean, when you're making television, when you're doing promotion, when you're doing something that involves telling a story, you can have a great fight. You can have a great show. You can go pitch something in Hollywood and have a great movie, or you can have a great strategy. You do not have to have both. And the problem that you have with Nick is you don't have a great strategy. He's fought one time in 5 years. He's now asking for a fight for the first time in half of a decade. If we're going to follow that trajectory or something even close, it means we don't get 2 and 3 Nick Diaz's. We have a one-off with Nick. Well, then hear back from you when and if we hear back from you. So we don't have a strategy. If you don't have a great strategy, then you got to back up to, okay, I need a good movie. It's got to be good. Have you ever seen John Wick, just by example? John Wick is fine. I watched them all. It's not a great movie. Hollywood loves the idea. You can make it cheap. You have a high reasonable assurance you're going to get your money back. Oh, and by the way, if it does work at all in the marketplace, you can duplicate it 10 more times. John Wick on a skyscraper, John Wick in space, John Wick in a submarine. You have a strategy. You don't have a great movie. You have a great strategy. With Nick, we don't have the strategy. We don't have 2 and 3 parts. Dana came out earlier today and announced that the winner of Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards would fight for the belt. Now, I must tell you, I've heard that told 2 different ways. I have 2 different websites. I got the dirt sheets. I got the bjpen.com. bjpen.com is usually a little bit more accurate. The only reason I offer this is so you don't have to correct me. I read it, but I read it twice. I read it 2 different ways. First way I read it was that deal's only good for Nate. If Nate beats Leon, Nate gets the title shot against the winner of Usman Covington. Second way I read it, it's good for both. It's a straight up semifinal. Whoever wins here advances, goes on for the gold. I'm cool with it either way. I'm just sharing with you guys so you don't have to correct me that it has been reported both ways, but that's a strategy. You don't have a strategy. And you see where that becomes effective because in many parts, I think we were all surprised when we saw that Nate chose Leon. And it is just that. Every fighter gets assigned a fight. They get a phone call. They get placed for a fight. Nate chose Leon. And Nate could have deflected that and chose somebody else. But Nate Diaz has been choosing opponents for a period of time. And I think a lot of us, I know I was, surprised he chose Leon. There was just no heat between those two. There was no natural beef. There was no way to build it. There was no real story there. Not an incredible matchup in terms of, hey, there's a very clear strategy for you to go beat him, Nate. No, it's a hard night out. That's what Nate does. Nate takes hard nights out, but he generally doesn't think of it the same way other fighters do, which is, what do I need to do to get me to where I want to be, which is the championship. We don't always know if Nate even wants the championship. That has never been something that Nate Diaz has ever made perfectly clear. I am working and sacrificing. I have a dream since I was a little boy. I want to be world champion. He's never used those words. So sometimes it's tough to put a strategy together. That's the only point that I'm attempting to make. When I ask you, okay, we're going to see Nick this year. Who do we see Nick against? I don't know that there's a wrong answer. There needs to be something somewhat compelling, because you either have a great product or you have a great strategy. You don't need both. You need one of those two. I'm confident in telling you the second, the long-term play with Nick is likely a very limited belief within the office. So for one night only, going to have some fun. We're going to bring some attention. We're going to bring some attraction. Who is that opponent going to be? And I think if Nick just said a name, that's who he'd be facing. And I don't know what makes him resist doing that, by the way. If he says he wants to fight, but he doesn't like the idea of the names that you're suggesting to put him in there with, it would just seem very reasonable to me that you would offer a name or two or three that you do like. But for whatever reason, it doesn't appear to be, the conversation doesn't appear to be working that way, right? And again, I'm making some guesses here, people. I have no better view of this than you do. I just know, following the golden rule, put yourself in someone's shoes, how would you be treated? If I was on a phone call and I didn't like the idea, I would offer a suggestion that I did like. It'd be one phone call. Click, call you back. I'd have it done in 20 minutes. This has been going on. When's the first time we heard about Nick returning? I want to say the first time Nick even flirted the idea in front of us that he might return was the night that Nate lost to Masvidal for the BMF. 2 years? Am I exaggerating? Year and a half? Somewhere right in there, 20 months? I got to be close. Meaningful amount of time ago for a phone call that would take anybody else 10 to 15 minutes total, with lag time, with, hey, I got to call you back. Let me call this guy. Oh, let me talk to that. 20 minutes in total. So I'd be curious what Nick wants to do, and some guys just refuse to call someone out. Nick probably has somebody in mind, and he's waiting until that name comes up. It's a very odd back and forth that it's taken this long. It's very odd. But one thing Nick hasn't lost is us. He hasn't lost our attention. He's dangled it. He's teased it. It's a little bit annoying, but we're still here. We're still here. Which means Nick's still winning. Who's he going to face? Who would you like to see him face? I would love if you left a comment, because I would love to see if I see the same name coming up over and over again. From a strategic standpoint, okay, you got to put a little bit of a cap on. Put a little bit of a cap on. Not just who do you want to see him face, who realistically do you believe he would accept a match with at this point in his career?